much higher than the card quality in Oslo Lions deck. So I was hoping to can get a little bit of an advantage from that single, small, tiny play there, but alas, it was not to be for them. And this is a very, very unfortunate position to be in if you are Oslo Lions. That is definitely for sure.
And I think for Oslo, it's also a thing of not playing the Mojo Master in their own deck. I remember from my time playing Hearthstone competitively that I had a harder time remembering cards that were not in my deck when playing the mirror, especially. So because they don't run it, they might have just overlooked it and overlooked the possibility of their opponents having it, and that's why they went with the greedy line of play that they did.
As we can see right now, should no defensive tools be in play for Lions, the Strength Form will just come down, threaten the Lethal, and again, Oslo somehow needs to gain 3 mana for 0, and that's just not going to happen. And I mean, they can go for something like the File trade-off, but again, the trade-off to File Twilight Drake is not too bad overall. It's actually a pretty solid play, right? And you are looking towards that Lich King, which will buy you at least another turn or so, and the direct damage is very much limited. And as long as you just hold back on this Volkir Monkless and just not tap here, you actually could find yourself in a pretty strong position here. And you, again, something that's very important to note, they do get first Gul'dan regardless now. And first Gul'dan is obviously pretty big because it gets you get the body stiff, you get the taunt, you get to use of the first hero power, you get all these things in there for you that's just so good for you personally. As we see right now, it's going to be a... Yeah, go ahead.
I would have liked to see the Death Grip 2 turns ago, or one turn ago, just to get one of those stronger minions from your opponent. You knew there was still a Mountain Giant in, you knew there was still a Lich King in, before it was drawn, obviously. And now I feel like there's not really a space where you're still going to play it for value.
This is very interesting. This position right now, like, how do you space this out if you are Epic, right? Like, do you go for a 4-drop plus 2-drop? Do you go for a 6-drop? And which 6-drop in case do you go for the Unraveler? Do you go for the Gen? Right? Do you go for Twilight Drake? Do you go for, like, there are so many things you can go for right now. Do you go for something like Death Grip to see if you can find like a...
I think you go for the Nerubian. Yep, the Unraveler is very good here.
It's just better overall again, but like, it's just gonna be Lich King push face for Lions most of the time right now. Don't really envision a single draw in their deck that would make them not choose to go for this, but we'll see. Again, Greymane is not that draw, and I'm assuming it's just gonna mean Oslo Lions will just slam down this Lich King. And should this Lich King find something good, like let's say like an armor with that or something like that, that would be really nice to draw. But just see what's gonna happen right now. It's gonna be a Death Grip, and Death Grip is also not the greatest. It's not the greatest. Again, like, things are like mirrored and perfectly balanced as they should be right now, I guess, in that sense. The same card was generated from both players. I guess that's the epitome of fair RNG for both sides right now, right? And this Unravel trade off again. So this situation is actually... Oh, may I talk
this is really bad. It's really bad for Epic Esports.
Really bad for Epic. Because they had to trade in, go for Hellfire, even just have a chance of killing off this bot. It only leaves them with 4 mana left, and they don't have the mana left to make a defensive play, right? I'd have to Shroomber, actually, true. That will put them back off 1 damage above lethal, but should any damage have been generated from the Lich King, that... Actually, I'm lying. It will push them 3 damage above lethals, but again, that doesn't matter, because if any damage card was generated from this Lich King, then that's just not
the best game. For you. And that would be the series as well, so that's what you have to keep in mind as well.
But more importantly, you are giving your opponents time to get to that ever so important Blood River Gul'dan they've been trying to go for so long. They are going to go for this play instead. I assume this means no trades.
I think this means a Doomsayer as well.
Ooh, the Doomsayer too. That would give them the priority. Another Spellstone found here doesn't allow them to push damage, so I guess it's not that big. I mean, you can trade in. Go for Death Grip. Is there any way to clear the spot with the file? Not that I'm seeing right now. You've used both your spell breakers too, right?
No, there isn't. There's no way to deal and clear the spot with the file.
Did they use both spell breakers, by the way, Oslo?
Oh wait, there is. No, there isn't. Never mind.
No, I'm just wondering if they used.
Yes, they did. They did. I think so. Yeah.
Because then like you could go for like a full-on YOLO play, tap into Spellbreaker, just get
So many possibilities.
Let's see.
So you have to forfeit this board because you can't clear the Doomsayer.
Yeah,
So what are you going to do?
Do you ever tap for anything? Like, is there ever a reason we tap? I don't think so.
So I've also figured out why they didn't play the Death Grip, because I think they want to threaten with it. They want to threaten it being another card in the Death Grip.
What is this play again?
This is the I don't have enough mana to play my Spellstone after all.
Yeah, they actually messed up because they want to play the Spellstone here. So if
they couldn't, they didn't have enough mana.
Yeah, so now they don't have the 2-4, but what this does is like it doesn't matter for them because they get the 2-4 back with the Gul'dan on this turn specifically, and they're never gonna die unless that Lich King card would have been a direct damage card. So I don't think that regardless this is that bad. It's actually pretty. I still think that this is a pretty good play for the Norwegian organization right here. I think this is still a pretty good play from the lineup here. I guess it's a little bit unfortunate because I obviously would have still liked to have the Lich King in play, but I think that overall, I think that my Death Grip going to come down here. But even if this Death Grip, that was hard to say that sentence, but even if Death Grip going to get down here and fight like the Mana Giant, the hand size alone for Epic right now is not that big. And I mean, that is an acidic Swarm boost, and that's not that good of a minion in this matchup, and not a whole lot of even weapons and even Warlock. And I mean, this Gul'dan just seems to be the breaking point. Like, this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and again, Epic has just not found some of that late game we've been talking so much about. There was that second card with Spellbreaker that they could have potentially found as well.
So they didn't use both Spellbreakers. I was wrong in tracking. But that's okay. This is a clear Gul'dan turn.
This Gul'dan is great. However, I'm trying to figure out whether or not you just go for something like Death Grip, Amethyst Spellstone, or just Death Grip Army or something like that. You probably never want to go for Army right now because you're just going to die to Hellfire and the Fatigue play. That would just be really bad. You know that's one Hellfire left for your opponents here. I'm just trying to figure out. They're probably just discussing if there's any way that we just don't go for it, because something actually could happen if they go for Gul'dan. Does Hellfire Defile just kill them off? Actually, I'm just trying to figure out because you only heal for 5. They're gonna go for Army of the Dead into Spellstone instead, which just gives them that 8/8. This is actually a very strong play, and they will only be fatiguing for 1. There's no way for the opponents to heal off 8. This also blocks out Bone Map completely in its pure existence. This is actually an incredibly good play here for us Alliance, and that does mean that I don't see a way for them to hold up.
Double Defile Spellstone actually.
Double Defile Spellstone does take back the board. But
if you do that, then you can't deal with the Gul'dan board anymore.
Yeah, and it just brings out an extra 4 into the Gul'dan board. But I mean, if you are Epic, I feel like you just have to go for that and just hope there's some kind of way for you to get rid of this in the future.
I guess Ooze plus Defile plus Spellstone is better.
The first Spellstone is better, yeah. It does trigger. But the Spellstone is how much? It's only 3. Do you get the 4? You get the 5. You get all 5 triggers for that. Yep.
So let's see what Epic Esports can do here in their last, or maybe the second to last turn. This is their tournament on the line as well. So these are the really important decisions that you have to make. They're on 10 mana. Their opponent takes fatigue damage as well, don't forget that. And there we go. It's going for the Defile clear with the Spellstone. It's a perfect clear of the board. You don't do anything else, and then you hope you can clear the Gul'dan next turn, because you are 100% certain that it's in the hand now.
Yeah, and this is just going to be Windmill slamming Gul'dan down, and I mean, Hellfire Defile is not a bad few cards to have to hopefully get rid of the Spell State. You do die because this is 6/6, right? And that's also what I was talking about, like how important it was for them to get the.
Oh no, you don't, because you heal for 4, and that's one of lethal for Oslo.
Oh, snappy that Krokodille. This is actually pretty intense.
But they heal back. Yeah, they definitely need to draw the Gul'dan next turn, and they, of course, being Epic Esports, the team that doesn't have their Gul'dan yet. Yeah, but they can or they, in this case, Oslo Lions, can combat their fatigue pretty well with the hero power that they gained. Do you trade though into the 4/4? Because that means you won't have any board left. You're not going to kill your opponent.
I mean, you just play Spellbreaker. No, you have to because you don't want to get bone mad. You have to just use the Spellbreaker. Just trade off. Play Ooze Spellbreaker. He'll ping his face. It sets up lethal. So you just have to go for that and just pray there's no Goldandron. Or go Gen trade. This sets up the same amount of damage exactly, so it doesn't matter. He goes for this though. Okay, this holds the Spellbreaker to play around the bone. It also holds the Spellbreaker for any Gul'dan resurrections that includes Tom William Homunculus.
But it's lethal. The fatigue is enough.
Is the fatigue only? Isn't the fatigue only 2?
The fatigue is 3 damage.
This is just a miss. That actually is true. Yeah, they didn't take the bone man into consideration here. You just had to clear the board, and you would have been in a much better spot.
Epic Esports wins against Oslo Lions 3-2. This was a very close matchup. It did come down to the Warlock mirror as we expected, and in the end, the cheaty ankle biter couldn't do it for Oslo Lions. Oslo Lions out of the tournament, and Epic Esports through to the semi-final.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Oslo Lions, they will not be going towards fighting for that trophy. When they entered the tournament, though, their main reason was that they just wanted to beat Norderwind. They did accomplish to beat Norderwind. They did outplace them, but after such a long series and grueling Game 5 series, I'm not completely sure that you would have loved to see that. I'm sure that our analysts would have a lot of things to talk about that in just a second, but I just wanted to ask you briefly, Livian, anything that you noted outside of that last turn that was just things that would have absolutely detrimental to the series outcome?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
I just want to ask if there's anything that you feel like was detrimental to the series outcome in that situation. Like, was it
draws? Yeah, I think the trade that you proposed was actually really good. I think not playing around the Mojo Master Zihi was also really bad. They were too greedy on the Gul'dan. I think they could have won the game quite easily, actually.
All right, and some people have been talking about this game a lot more and a lot different than we have throughout these past two hours by now. I feel like our analyst desk, including Dan and Bobson, but Delta, you'll be talking them for this series. So please be the man, take over this right now.
And
thank you, Vida. It was great, like sitting in the back seat and just watching this analyzing. It was great hearing Dan and Bobson just going on and on and on about plays and different styles. It was so much fun, and this great series is finally come to an end. It was a long, grueling series here, but there's a few things we want to point out. First, we have the priest mirror. So, what do you say, guys?
I'll let you take this one, Dan.
It's like there's so many things that we would have to say, because like we were mixed in this matchup. We were mixed in this matchup in between how unlucky the draws from the Oslo Lions was, with the Cabal being bottom 3. Like both Cabals are bottom 3. Anduin was bottom 10, and he caused them so much damage on that Lich King that they had to scream and they had to play a Primordial on it. Like, so it's really hard to evaluate the level, and even with this, they still managed to find a setup lethal, and they lost one turn too early. But on this mirror, I feel like the draws were the biggest impact.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like we gotta like give special commendation to Oslo Lions set up a play to kind of win them the game when they were in a pretty bad position. On the turn before they lost, they made the choice of Mind Blast, hero power, to put Epic to 10. And they did this because they had 2 Mind Blasts in hand with one still in deck, 3 cards remaining. They did this because they knew that if, with 1 minion left on board, if Epic were to Velen Spirit Lash, it put them back up to 18. So if they top deck that 1 and 3, they would still win the game. Unfortunately for them, they finally drew one of their Cabal Shadow Priests, which they've been waiting for the entire game. So that one just wasn't meant to be. And the Epic looked a little bit unsure of their approach to the game through the priest era. well, I mean, obviously we're going to get to the Warlock Mirror. That one, we've probably got a few things to say. But then the Hunter Mirror.
The Hunter Mirror, we're still baffled by the finish. Is like the how on earth do you not try to get this Wind Fury? We crossed every possibility in our head. Like, yeah, they don't want to put an extra minion in case Unleash the Hounds. Then Taunt becomes an option, and you go to 60% chance. So this is not true. Well, maybe they don't know the cards in the hand. We went through the deck list. Deck lists are public. 95% of the deck was lethal with 2 cards in hand. There are like so many things we didn't understand on the fact that you just don't try lethal when you're at 7 against a hunter. Like 7 is the magic number for hunter.
A hunter with 2 cards.
Yeah, it's like 2 cards kept, a third one coming in at the start of the turn. It's like 7 has been the magic number for Rexar since the game was invented. Everybody knows kill command plus hero power is 7. Literally everybody knows that. Rexar is not in your hand. Take your 30% chance to kill your opponent. It's a Hunter Mirror. You want to kill, you don't want to defend.
Yeah, the Hunter Mirror just left us all kind of shouting at the screen over in the analyst's room. And finally, the Warlock Mirror. There was that... Well, we heard the casters already kind of touch on this previously, so we're not going to harp on about it too much before we go to a break. But what we all kind of agreed on was they top deck Gul'dan on 10. We're all saying, slam that bad boy, get it down. That hero power will just win the game. As it turned out, there were a few kind of mistakes from Oslo Lions throughout that series. The Defile Homunculus click on a Spellstone, which is unplayable because you have 3 mana left, was a particularly kind of jarring moment for a team who played quite well throughout the series. And
yeah,
so that's the way it crumbles.
Yeah, that was where it is. And Epic is going further into this final playoffs in this house rivalries. But we will be back with more Hearthstone, and the next match coming up is none other than Royal Blue versus Sector 1. So it will be a short break, and we will be back soon. See you later.
And welcome back to House Rivalries EU playoffs. We are ready for quarterfinal game number 2 between Royal Blues and Sector 1. The winner of this match is going to be proceeding on to be playing the Helsinki Reds, who are waiting for them in the semifinals. I'm on board with the analysts for this match, so let's kick it over to the analyst desk. Guys, give us a preview of this match.
So I think Royal Blue could win because I like blue versus red, and I think Sector 1 could win because they're Belgian, and I'm almost Belgian, being from the Netherlands. But looking at the decks, it's really hard to say who's going to win. We have Royal Blue with Odd Warrior, Odd Rogue, and Hybrid Hunter. They're even Paladin being banned. So those are fun decks, I must say. Then Sector 1 with Mid-Range Hunter, Q-Block, and Clone Priest. Their Togwaggle Druid being banned, so no Druid for us. Vita, do you have more inside knowledge? Do you
I want to talk a little bit about. Sorry, I want to talk a little about this odd rogue. It has a Snapjaw, Shellfighter, Glacial Shard, Crystallizer. It also has stuff like Blaze Caller. It's just it has like a lot of elemental packages as well. I feel like the Blaze Caller might be a little bit too gimmicky considering you're only running the double extra shots as your extra. You have to target creepers too, I guess. So you do have enough elemental synergy. I just feel like it's a nice little bit of extra. Reach at the end of the day. And obviously now with Cobra gone, you're starting to look for other ways to generate reach in Rogue. In other Rogue, this apparently seems to be the approach Royal Blue has gone for. Other people has gone towards playing the December Rogue again. That saw a lot of play, also referred to as Atlas Rogue or Pirate Rogue. But then again, now that's just the thing. Also, I'm interested to see Odd Warrior versus Gallery Priest. I feel like I'm not interested to see the matchup itself, but I'm interested to see how the techs that are in Royal Blue's Odd Warrior are. We're talking Tank Master Overspark, we're talking Leroy Jenkins, we're talking these cards are being just used to dilute the Resurrection pool for decks like Resurrection Priest. So I'm interested to see how that's going to work out. And I was a little bit interested to see the hybrid hunt. I was casting DreamHack Leipzig this past weekend, and Viewer he was one of the people in the first bit that really like popularized the hybrid hunter build. Obviously, when we're talking hybrid hunt, we're talking a mix of spell and regular mid-range hunter. This build is really odd. It has like Rhino, Wing Blast, Soul Jin as well, Spellstone, Secrets, all that good stuff. But for the Sector 1 side, a lot of the lists are more or less standard. We're talking standard hunter just with the inclusion of a 1 Wing Blast in that flexible position. And then they have the Cube Warlock, which is one of my favorite decks to watch, because it's a very interesting deck in a way that it works. And you can just punish so many different types of decks in general, which I think is absolutely great. And then obviously you have the good old Serix Clothing Gallery Priest that everybody loves to watch play because it's totally interactive and super fun to watch.
So as we head into this match, fellas, predictions. How do you think these lineups are going to match up against each other once the 5 games are resolved?
Yeah, so I think the weak point for Sector 1 will be their mid-range hunter. It looks like it's kind of bad against all the decks that Royal Blue has, so they have to get a win from there at some point. So I would say Royal Blue slightly.
You say Royal Blue slightly favorite, and I'm just going to say Sector 1 because Sector 1 is cool, and they have Chinuiz on the team today, and Chinuiz is a pretty good player.
All right, we'll chalk it on the board, but for now, we're going to get ready to head into the match. Let's kick it over to the casters, Robson and Den. Guys, take it away.
Yep, so some interesting points there. There are some kind of slightly more biased reasons as to why the casters thought their picks were going to win. So maybe we should be a bit more analytical then with how we think it's going to pan up with the way the lineups.
I'm gonna be biased for one sentence, and then I promise to be analytical. But Chinois has been a teammate of mine in Gamers Origin, so I really want him to win, especially because I know he focused on his school and his internship really hard for the past months. He succeeded at this. I'm so happy for him, and I think the best way to celebrate is just to win the next tournament he enters, and this is this one, and now I can be analytical.
Right, so getting on with the analytical stuff. Sector 1, their lineup with their Togwaggle Druid, which has been banned, does feature kind of a weak point against every deck that Royal Blue have brought. Their mid-range hunter, it has a kind of it's just got weak matchups across the board against the odd rogue, against the hybrid hunter, and against the odd warrior, as well as the even paladin, which is banned. So Sector 1 are kind of on the back foot with this one, and it's going to be crucial for them to find a win with that mid-range hunter if they want to win this series.
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like this is being kind of a common strategy with the meta really settling down now, that everybody's taking like good decks that also have a slight advantage against mid-range hunter, and a lot of series are coming down to mirrors a lot of times. Royal
As we
Blue has
saw in the
decided
previous
to
game.
yeah, Royal
With
Blue has
3
decided to
mirrors.
forego this. They're going with the Secret Hunter. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what I consider to be the real level of the deck, because I honestly don't have a really good idea. Like, I don't know how good is the deck now with the Spellstone, like, because before Midrange Hunter could cheese in a win with Unleash, and they're giving him one more turn for that. So what I'm really like concerned about is how good is Secret Hunter.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I got to be honest, I haven't touched it. I played some Spell Hunter since the Spellstone nerf, and that deck is fine, but that one is kind of more of a mid-range, bordering on control deck against aggressive decks. Secret Hunter might, that extra turn might just be kind of its undoing, and maybe that's why I haven't seen it so far. But getting into the game at hand, Sector 1 have opened with their Cloning Gallery Priest, and Royal Blue have begun with their Odd Rogue. This is generally, you'd say,
odd rogue.
yes, this is. I mean, anyone looking at the screen right now can see 3 not particularly conventional cards on the list. Edwin very occasionally sees its way in. Glacial Shard, very uncommon, and the Glacial Shard is in there to enable a Blaze Caller that we also see in Royal Blue's hand. So that is bit of extra burst damage for the Odd Rogue to be able to kind of go through, and it's crucially it's able to go over the top of taunts like the Lich King we see in Sector 1's hand.
Yeah, since nerfs, I feel like we have seen like 2 really different builds of Odd Rogue. So the one that you're gonna discover through this game, which is a more elemental one, which is way more curvy because now it actually runs 7 drops, which I think it's the first time Odd Rogue runs 7 drops for months. And there's another build that was more popularized by Bunny Hopper, which is more on the trading side with like Death Speakers, with Snapjaws, like the 3/8 that takes damage instead of minions next to her. So here we're gonna have the more elemental, so mid-range curve of the deck. I haven't played it myself. I've tried the other version. I've never tried this one. But actually, I feel like Blaze Caller can be really good against Cloning Priest, which on turn 7 is going like Psychic Scream. And then he thinks like, okay, I'm safe, no board, just Dagger and Leroy. And you pretty much have to count on 3 Leroys if your opponent played an Elemental last turn, because like Blaze Caller is basically a Leroy to your face.
Yeah, it's a Leroy which can, crucially, because Sector 1 will want to play some of these big taunts, like they want to resurrect this Grizzly as many times as possible this game.
They're playing 2 of them.
Yes, they are indeed playing 2. And talking about the Snapjaw Shellfighter, that is also in this Odd Rogue list, which has a lot of more unconventional cards. There are 2 Void Rippers, there are 2 Tar Creepers, there is 1 Snapjaw Shellfighter, there is a Ziliax, there are the 2 Blaze Callers, 2 Glacial Shards, Edwin Van Cleef. A lot of things that we haven't seen in Odd Rogue before, which are just kind of a reaction to the nerf to Coldblood, where people thought we need to kind of take this deck in a slightly different direction now. And what do you make of this turn for Sector 1? Great Gargoyle or do nothing?
Well, you play your Gargoyle because, I mean, you know it's dying to the weapon. This is not a matchup where you play Gargoyle to contest anything. You play the Gargoyle to save 2 damage on your face and get a coin, pretty much. You get 1 turn closer to Hysteria or to Psychic Scream or to whatever spell you judge will basically save your life in this matchup, because this is what about the Priest is trying to do, save your life, literally. But here, maybe it's kind of what the build like lacks, is like here we can see that Burrow as, well, to put it simply, one of the worst turn 4 we're gonna see from an Odd Rogue.
Yes, pretty much. It's very lackluster, and this Glacial Shard can't even be played. Not only is it a Valspine activator on turn 6, which enables a Blaze Caller on 7, it just doesn't really do anything this turn, and would actually kind of possibly make a Mass Hysteria clear possible if all 3 minions went into Edwin Van Cleef. So
yeah, at least with this setup, you know Van Cleef exits Hysteria safe. Like, at worst, he's a 4-2. Now playing this, I understand the percentages, because he's freezing this 2-2. So the way Hysteria works is that there is a lot of chances. Yeah, no, there is a lot of chances Van Cleef exits. It's not 100% anymore, but this way there is also a chance that more than Van Cleef gets out. Like, let's imagine like both moles attack into the 2-2, and then the 2-1 crashes into a mole, then they exit with 4-4 and 1-1. They would get more damage. The question I'm asking myself is, why would they do that with that slow of a hand? Did they really need to take that risk with a hand that is so slow? Like, I don't imagine them killing before that Blaze Caller anyway, even if this Hysteria goes well.
Yeah, I was really looking at Glacial Shard Valspine on 6, Blaze Caller on 7 as just being a wonderful kind of curve. And if they just hit the Gargoyle redaggered on the previous turn, it's bad, but you still have quite a good follow-up with Ziliax into Glacial Shard Valspine into Blaze Caller.
And I mean, like in the deck right now, well, they just drew one, but after this Glacial Shard, they still had 5 elementals in the deck. So I can understand playing one and just saying, well, we're gonna draw another one. But the argument of let's activate this Valspine, especially against a Cloning Priest that plays double Grizzly, like if it was the full combo version, the argument would not matter that much. But here we have a double Grizzly list, so there might be a 3-7 or 3-8, depending on the size of the hand right now, that hits the board, like right there, for example. And now they don't have that activator anymore.
Yeah, lacking a Valspine activator against Grizzlies in particular is just a massive deal. Ziliax? Okay.
Okay, they're gonna protect the Van Cleef. They're just gonna give up Ziliax to the Gargoyle, apparently. I mean, in this matchup, Ziliax is not gonna give you much. I think the card is just really aggressive matchup because it compensates the amount of damage you take with your dagger, and at the same time, it provides taunt to more important minions.
Yep. I mean, Ziliax is just a very good card. There's a reason we see it in almost literally everything.
I was talking about it with a student today that just told me, like, since Novice Giggling, like the new Giggling, and this is actually really true, like, this is the Divine Shield on turn 5 that annoys pretty much every deck he's played against. And that's what Giggling did before the nerfs.
Yep, and I really like the way that Sector 1 sequenced that turn. Spirit Lash to get 4 health, put Edwin down to
3 health.
3, and then the coin Ziliax will be able to clear it off, and the Ziliax is going to gain another 3 because this dagger is going to have to bump into it, and then there's only 1 damage remaining on the board to push through, and this is going into the Psychic Scream turn.
Yeah.
Which
This
then
is
goes.
I mean, any priest at the start of the matchup, if you would tell them, do you want to be at 19 health on turn 7, they would sign right there.
Yep, with 2 Psychic Screams in hand, no less. And if the Blaze Caller comes down this turn, Anduin's gonna make short work of it, and
if he doesn't, Lich King will like make his pleasure to come down. So they can just choose if they want to play development or if they want to answer. But right now, Sector 1 is in a great position considering the matchup at the start.
This is not a good matchup for Clone Priest whatsoever, but it looks like once the Priest reaches this point in the matchup, they are usually very confident about things, because I think it's going to take a Myra's Unstable Element coming into the hand very soon for... Oh, I spoke too soon. Myra's Unstable Element is not present in this elemental build of Odd Rogue. once Royal Blue's resources have run dry, as they are starting to do so right now, they do not have any more cards. They do have Fan of Knives as a duplicate in the deck for a bit of cycle, but that's no Myra's Unstable Element, which is just probably one of the most powerful cards in Hearthstone.
Yes, like Myra's in the deck now feels a little bit less powerful because you don't have Cold Blood, so the amount of damage that you can pick up from it is less threatening, and sometimes the fatigue is a much bigger problem than it was before. But the card is still very good, and we're seeing, well, I'm pretty sure it's the best 9 mana card on 9 in the game.
Yep.
Which is Gallery.
It is just unfortunate there is no copy of Holy Smite or Mind Blast in hand, as both Radiant Elementals, Malygos, and Prophet Velen are all in the deck.
The question is it that bad? Because Odd Rogue is not good at killing a lot of 1/1s. And
especially when they've just played one copy of Fan of Knives.
Yeah, well, actually they play Fan of Knives, because like Odd Rogue generally never plays that card. Yeah. They just did play their copy of it. But I actually like Gallery and just leave it there as a card, like as a lot of 1/1s, and just tell your opponent, hey, if you don't kill them and I top deck, well, that's 20 damage for Mind Blast, for example.
Yeah, see, I much preferred Zarek's Cloning Gallery to playing Lich King, because those two cards in the Odd Rogue's hand are very often going to be Evolved Spite Slayer. And
also, I have a question. Where did the Fan of Knives come from? It's not in their list.
It is. They do run 2 Fan of Knives in their Odd Rogue Royal Blue.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I missed it, because I went back to the list they sent and totally missed it, but yes.
Now, see, by not playing the Zarek's Cloning Gallery last turn, they actually gave Royal Blue an opportunity to possibly swing tempo enough in their favor to maybe seize this game. I imagine Psychic Scream has to come out at this point, because this board is threatening and presenting lethal.
Well, you could try Hysteria or play the Lich King card, but I don't really see what it gains you. Well, Hysteria is actually full clear, so you're gaining 2 damage or an Elemental, looking at either way. Yeah, but like, ooh, this is 2 damage off.
It is.
This is very threatening.
Yeah, Radiant, very scary card in pretty much all scenarios. However,
the Gallery has a Grizzly in it, but it's the only taunt because we saw Ziliax, we saw Lich King, and we already saw 1 Grizzly. So if they face for 2 damage this turn, with the dagger up, they win on Gallery next turn, and there's absolutely none that can stop a Leroy right now.
No, but so they will need to draw their second copy of Spirit Lash or Shadow Visions into the second copy of Spirit Lash. Because with Shadow Reaper Anduin active, the one downside is your ability to heal. And that second copy of Spirit Lash is the only healing card remaining for Sector 1. And that decision to Lich King may prove to be very costly when it looked like they had pretty much stabilized. And if a big minion is resurrected, like say a Eternal Servitude into either Lich King or Grizzly, we may see the Zerix come out right now, and with Lyra in the deck and a Mind Blast, and oh no, this is just lethal with the 0 mana Mind Blast and the 4 damage hero power, because Prophet Velen doubles that as well. It is just in fact lethal.
So apparently the best way to avoid getting killed by Leroy is just killing your opponent at 27 right before that.
Fantastic stuff. Yep. Zerix Cloning Gallery just is a card which enables so many really, really fun and interactive things. And that was a really weird kind of back and forth for Sector 1, who looked like they were in a pretty bad spot, then it looked like they were in a very good spot, then it looked like another bad spot, and then they just top deck Mind Blast to get out of that bad spot by just winning the game outright.
Yeah, and at the same time, well, I was personally like discovering this build of Odd Rogue. Like I knew about it, but I actually never seen it in action. And I feel like it is probably going to impress us against Hunter, because I think that's what it's made to kill. But I'm pretty sure against decks like Cloning Priest or something like that, the fact that your curve is more steep and that you have like more support cards like Fan of Knives and things like this, maybe it cost them a bit.
Yep, maybe it did. So we are going to get into game number 2 right now, and we are going to see how well Sector 1's mid-range hunter can do. And up first against it is Royal Blue's Odd Warrior. Now, I was saying before the game, I'm thrilled that because the Clone Priest has made its way through for Sector 1, we are not going to see Odd Warrior versus Clone Priest. Instead, we're going to see mid-range hunter versus Odd Warrior, which can... This matchup is either very decided very early on for the warrior, or Rexar is found for the hunter, and then it goes a little bit longer. But this hand for Sector 1 is absolutely awful. I don't think Royal Blue really have any decisions to make here. They have no playable cards.
Yes, and the thing is, like, the warrior hand doesn't look that good either. Like, this is a very, very defensive hand that doesn't do anything if your opponent doesn't pressure you. But the thing is, warrior doesn't care that much. Warrior has a hero power that is totally fine waiting forever.
Yeah, and you say this hand doesn't look like much. I say this is probably the perfect hand against mid-range hunter. Because unless Rexar comes out very early, and even in a lot of those scenarios, once you deal with mid-range hunters, normally about 3 kind of mid-sized boards, they just run out of stuff entirely, unless they go very quickly into their master's calls, trackings, and just kind of like get the cycle going. And we do not see any of that cycle present for Sector 1 right now. They just have absolutely nothing going on.
Yeah, and this is the kind of matchup where you can go 2 ways. Either you pressure early and you try to outspeed the warrior before he gets to these mana turns where it's so comfortable. Like, we know the 5 mana turn is super important with Brawl, Hero Power, and Flurry, Super Collider. We already see like all of these cards in there, and actually. And then turn 7, where he has even more possibilities going with the Mechs, the Magnetism, the Ziliaxes. Super Collider can already be equipped at this time. Like, you really want to kill him before he gets to that comfort zone, or you gotta go to Rexar. Like, these are the 2 plans Hunter has, and when looking at the hand right now, none of these plans are available.
Yeah. I'd say that the first plan you outlined almost pretty much never ever works against a Odd Warrior as a mid-range hunter. The only card that can really get you there in the kind of early to mid stages of the game is Scavenging Hyena. If you can get one above 4 health very early on through Spring Paws, particularly
Frenzy
Spring Paw,
is pretty good for it.
Yeah, Frenzy on Razormaw is probably the second best minion you can get for mid-range hunter in this matchup. First, obviously, being Tundra Rhino, because you can just the ability to adapt, and to particularly the ability to play Tundra Rhino as well as a 6 attack Razormaw on top of it for just some crazy burst damage with a resilient board behind it. It's really what you need to get you there. And I don't see anything for Royal Blue here besides just hero power, shield slam, and play an Omega Assembly, find a Dynamatic for the following turn. But
yeah,
they're
like
under no threat whatsoever right now.
It feels like with the hands that we see, the turns look super easy for Royal Blue, but they have to consider everything's possible from their point of view. So they're obviously going to take a little bit of time. But like, as you suggested, they didn't even play the Omega Assembly. Like, they must feel like they have time, and you can't really blame them. Like, they're probably right thinking they can carry this card until turn 10.
Yeah, I think they are absolutely right, which is just really kind of disappointing for Sector 1. They play the tracking, which just gets rid of their 2 Spring Paws, which they're they're not sad to see Springport go, but what they were really hoping for was kind of value. They want Master's Call to cycle. They want Rexar to just start generating beasts as early as possible. Royal Blue just have all the time in the world. They're still at 30 health.
Yeah, there's like, I think the damage plan is gone through the window at this point. Let's just abandon that. Cycle your deck, find that Rexar as soon as possible if you want to win this game.
Yep, and the real kind of downside for Hunter in this particular matchup is because your win condition is so heavily predicated around Deathstalker Rexar, and you need to draw it. But you also, your deck's kind of strength also kind of really strongly hinges around Dire Frenzy. So by putting more cards in your deck, you're making your chance of getting your most important card worse. So really it's just a very rough time for a mid-range Hunter in this matchup, and I think this one's going about how it usually goes. They are finally able to make a beast, get the Rhino on the board, and just hope this Rhino sticks.
Yeah. Well, for now the Rhino could stick, considering the hand. A lot of things could try to remove it. But the thing is, considering Chinoi's hand, and I think that's the saddest part. If this Rhino sticks,
doesn't.
So what?
No.
Like, when you look at Sector 1's hands, like the Rhino sticks, so what? They can't even punish it. They can't even take anything with this Rhino. Like, they need to top deck a 6/5 for 2 mana, which would put them in this game. Like, they're 3/6/5, there's a Rexar. Only these 4 cards matter, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think for Royal Blue, I probably just like them to see them equip Super Collider, hit Misha into the Rhino, and then that will set up a guaranteed Reckless Flurry on the following turn. And then maybe even coin a Hero Power, just to be super safe. Because you can kill this Rhino over 2 turns. When they have so few cards in hand, you're not going to die at this point. I just think they choose to...
Yeah, I think they're just setting up for the flurry next turn. Like, they're just gonna flurry away the Misha and then whatever.
And
this is a really good card. Like,
and we see a
Master
6/5.
Yes. This Master Scroll was probably even better than the Razor Mob because he brought 1. I didn't think about the card last turn, but this is actually one of the cards that they really needed, and that can punish Royal Blue for not killing the Rhino last turn. Now the question is, what do you adapt? And also, you just saw your opponent pass the turn, so how much are you afraid that they're just ready to clear whatever, and they're just waiting for you to commit more?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be on their mind. And also what they've got to be thinking about, crucially, with Super Collider on the board is, where do they put things?
Yes, there are like so many questions here. Like, this is where you can separate good players from very, very good players, when they can make these tiny adjustments of where to put each card at the exact spot that is going to annoy the warrior the most.
They'll go for the can't be targeted. And what do you make of that decision? Because that seems
I think it's
quite a low impact choice. The only targeted removal that Warrior has is Shield Slam, which is, of course, one that has already been played. And the second one would not even kill this Tundra Rhino with a Hero Power anyway. So they would have liked to go for either attack or the +1/+1 was the third option, I believe.
What now?
I think I would have liked to just go for the maximum amount of damage as well, especially because with a Super Collider on the board, it doesn't really matter what you put on the Rhino. As long as they can remove this Misha, the Rhino will end up going into the 6/5. And the Warrior probably doesn't want to attack into the 6/5, so he wants to attack into the Rhino, which makes that the more attack the Rhino has, and the more damage they're going to take, and probably twice.
Now, Royal Blue in a pretty precarious position here, going to have to throw out one of their brawls. and likely just hoping that Misha survives, and it does.
Nice.
That was a huge deal. But there is still a
That
second
was
Tundra Rhino, which can
really
get cleared
important.
out.
Well, they didn't want to use the flurry. The flurry was a full clear, like no,
It wasn't.
Maybe it wasn't. It wasn't. You would leave one because both minions would end up being at 1 health, so the collider effect actually wouldn't work. So they had to go for brawl, and the best thing happened for them. Like it's kind of weird to say the best thing was a 4/4 actually, because that's still a pretty good minion to have on the board. But
it's not a
you compare
6/5,
it-
and it's not a Tundra Rhino. And crucially, it's at a health total which dies to hero power Reckless Flurry. That is the most important thing, with double Reckless Flurry present in hand.
Yes, but this is really weird. I mean, the warrior is under much more pressure than we expected at the start of this game, because this frenzy has done a lot of work into the Master Skull, with the Rhino staying on the board for 1 turn. And maybe also we could talk a little bit about this warrior build, because they have the cubes, they have more like tempo packages, like to get tempo back from their opponent once they cleared the board. The problem, they didn't manage to clear the board perfectly yet, so they could actually use these cubes.
Nope, it's very much a kind of tempo tool to once you have the board, you just seize it very emphatically. So cube, it's best used kind of on like 9-10 mana, where you can use it in conjunction with things like Faceless Manipulator. But now Royal Blue, I think, have just got a pretty good turn ahead of them. They can just hit this Misha and just Ziliax clear the board, and they finally retained the board at that point.
Yes, at this point in the game, you probably expect Ziliax to get flanking striked or to get dealt with some way or not. But honestly, in this matchup, as long as the Hunter at the start of the turn has to take care of the Warrior's board, this is good news for the Warrior. Like, when the Hunter cannot just think about, okay, how am I going to annoy him the most and go face or build a beast, this is good news for Warrior.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Hunter's weakness across pretty much all of its archetypes is the fact that it has to choose between being defensive or offensive. It just can't do both. And
well, he has that Unleash the Hounds and kind of combos and things like that, but Warrior never gives you a chance to use those.
Nope, and we could see some... Well, we have... The issue for Sector 1 right now is they have that big combo of the Tundra Rhino, Unleash, Hyena. But one, Warrior very rarely is going to extend wide enough for that to have much effect.
Or it would be Taunts, let's be honest.
Or they would be all taunts, because we see a Stonehold Defender, we see a Faceless Manipulator. Faceless Manipulator could hit that Ziliax if it's left alive. So this Ziliax needs to be dealt with.
I mean, honestly, if they get to turn 10 and Ziliax is still here, I think cube the Ziliax, Manipulator the cube. If you don't kill them that turn, game's over.
Yes, essentially.
But...
So, a lot for Sector 1 to think about here, and they don't really want to use their second Rhino unless it's to push a lot of damage. So, just thinking about kill command on the Ziliax here, and you don't want to be using a kill command, not face.
Well, this is the kind of matchups where kill command, when you can kill your opponent with that card, it usually means that you did a pretty good job with the minions and you were gonna win usually sooner rather than later. But here the problem is this kill command just kills Ziliax and that's it. It doesn't protect any minions, you didn't develop anything else on the turn, you pretty much were like, okay, I need this Ziliax to go, but the initiative is still a problem. The Warrior can do exactly like what he wants to do this turn. Like, he has 9 mana, absolutely free of, like, it's a free card. Do whatever you do, and the Hunter needs to keep answering, and the more turns like this, and the better the Warrior is going to be.
Yeah, because the Warrior is going to be gaining 4 life every single turn that passes.
Yeah, and he's going to have more mana, and the threats are going to grow.
Absolutely, while Sector 1 are once again starting to kind of run out of stuff. Witchwood Grizzly is just a pretty big taunt, which is going to have to be dealt with by some kind of adapt. But they have no minions to adapt. Crucially now, like it's actually become somewhat of a big deal that both spring paws were discarded by tracking.
Yeah, they're gonna have to adapt hounds, I guess. And on this grizzly, it's only toxic. There's not many things that are gonna help clearing this.
No, it has to be exactly poisonous, and that is a 30% chance to hit. If they don't, then this grizzly is just a complete barrier to Sector 1 having any chance of winning this game.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure like Royal Blue will happily face this grizzly next turn if it's still a 3/8.
Like they do have the option right now of they could go Tundra Rhino, Unleash the Hound, Scavenging Hyena. That will be a board clear, but it is one that comes at a huge expense. Or I guess the Crackling Razor Maw could get there. +3 attack. It doesn't get the poisonous, unfortunately for them. But it does.
It's
Yeah, now this
pretty
is
good.
just a really terrible play into Super Collider.
Yeah, and
They
it's not even that you're praying they don't have it. You know, it's like it's equipped and looking at you.
Yeah, it's been equipped for the past 6 turns. And this is the second Tundra Rhino. This is the second out of 3 Crackling Razor Maws. They've already played 1 Master's Call. They've already played 1 Dire Frenzy, and they do run 2. So that is at least a plus.
Yeah, but they're gonna need to either frenzy the last Crackling or Daddy Rexar better show up really, really fast.
Yep, and I would really like to see from Royal Blue here the Eternium Rover War Gear combo. Just make a big minion which is going to get you even more armor. Because once this armor train really gets rolling now that Sector 1 has started running out of cards, that's it.
Yeah, the game is just gonna be like further away.
This is
A little bit more turns. And like public deck list, we know Sector 1 is not running Deadly Shot or Hunter's Mark. This is a hard 6/8 that is not gonna go anywhere.
Absolutely. And now another pass, another free turn for Royal Blue to just do what they want. And having played Omega Assembly already, their hand is full of options. They could just Faceless manipulated this 6/8 and
They
keep
can
on
do
tanking
whatever
up.
they want, honestly. Like Faceless looks good, Dr. Boom looks good, like Armoring
probably
Up looks good.
Yeah, armoring up. I think Dr. Boom is probably the only way that they could lose this game at this point, because their health total is still a little bit low, and they just need to kind of tank up. They've already seen Ziliax, so this is their only form of healing, essentially.
I
Throwing that away
agree
would
with
give-
that, but at the same time, you saw both Rhinos, so you know your opponent cannot charge anymore, and all your minions having Rush can save you also a lot of life this way.
Yeah, I think there's that argument, but like I think if they don't play, they probably have bordering on 100% chance of winning the game. If they do play it, there is some situation that could arise where the hero power from Sector 1 just overturns, somehow gets there. Like, say they don't get Blast Shield for 10 turns in a row.
Yeah, that's probably you're probably a way better warrior player than me. I'm more on the mid-range hunter side of things most of the time, so I will definitely trust you on this.
Yeah, Boom, you just don't ever play it in pretty much any aggressive matchup because the tank up hero power is just so incredibly powerful, and Sector 1 acknowledged that they are not going to win this game and just throw out the concede. And is that going to be at
Well,
1-1?
It's gonna be 1-1, and I feel like Sector 1 kind of got a bit lucky on the priest, like the gallery into Mind Blast draw. It wasn't back to back; it was like 2 cards out of 3 turns, but it still was almost the only way they would have won the game with Leroy already in hand for their opponents. They didn't get out of this one, so now we're back to 1-1 and best of 3 setup from now on.
Absolutely, but like we say at the start of the match, it's all about Sector 1's Hunter in this matchup, and we saw it struggle there. Even though it looked like it maybe got there, they stuck a Rhino, and it still wasn't enough. And when you can stick a Rhino and still not win a game, that's not a good matchup.
I gotta say, for their defense, their hand was horrible at that time.
Oh,
So
it's
I just
absolutely.
hope I just hope they're not gonna get that kind of hand for 3 games, because with that kind of hand, honestly, it's not about the matchups. It's just about like, let's just play something else than Hearthstone.
Let's go play Auto Chess.
Yeah.
Now, getting into a matchup which is, I think, a whole lot better for Sector 1. They have their Cube Warlock. Royal Blue have their hybrid Secret Hunter. And this is just not a good time for the Hunter. I don't think.
Yeah, the matchups now lined up are like, it's still the question of how good is this secret build. I know it's probably gonna struggle a bit against Cube. Like, Cube is the kind of deck that just can watch secrets, not trigger them, and just build a huge board, and at some point be like, okay, let's go. I get 2 giants, a Doom Guard, a Void Lord, Gul'dan coming up. I can trigger any secret from now on.
Yep. And you can't. Like, Secret Hunter has no way of dealing with Void Lord in particular. Once that comes down and you start cubing it, there is absolutely nothing the Hunter can do, short of some pretty miraculous builder beasts from Rexar. That said, Shinwa's on Sector 1 has both of them in hand, so it's going to have to be a cube, Skull of the Minari, or just play them naturally on 9 mana. Neither of which you really want to do as cube block. The real power of this deck comes from cheating these massive minions out as early as possible.
Yes, you definitely want the free cards from this Skull of the Manary that just saves you. I don't know, like when it summons a Dreadlord, it saves you 4 mana. So if it summons 2, I guess it saves you 13 mana, which is a lot in tempo matchups like this one. We can see that they just picked up 2 Defiles back to back. So I feel like they just found a way to answer the Spellstone in case they have to go all the way to turn 9 and play these Void Lords the classic way. But for now, both hands are like pretty slow. The Hunter has a lot of threats, like he has the Spellstone, double Aina, double Kill Command, but he doesn't really have anything to set them up properly.
No, not, and you never really feel happy, do you, about playing Spellstone fully upgraded or not against a Warlock?
Yes, like even before, like you really felt happy when you had both, because you kind of know the first one is gonna get Hellfired, it's gonna get Defiled, he's gonna put a Taunt in the way. If he already has minions, like we can see that Ziliax is just a really good minion against Spellstone because he usually kills 2 of them. So yes, like Spellstone is not your winning card against Warlock. It's a nice card, like summoning 4 wolves is always good, but this is not the usual way you win the game.
And we should actually talk a little bit about the cube block like deck composition from Sector 1. They have gone with a quite defensive list. They do run double Doomsayer, and they do run double Plated Beetle. And to make room for that, they have omitted the more classical kind of faceless manipulators we usually see. So a little bit more 2-drop to kind of fight against these slightly more aggressive decks.
Yeah, I was trying to check what they put in their list, because usually people play 2-drops. I think it was Papa Jason that popularized the cheeky ankle biter in the deck for the Defile synergy and the Spellstone upgrading potential. But he still had 1 manipulator. But I think it's the inclusion of Lord Godfrey that made them remove manipulator for what you said, like a way more defensive option, which in this matchup should be really good.
Yeah, it should be, because I mean this matchup was good to begin with. Why not make it even better? We're just gonna see Hyena come down, and Wandering Monster is at least gonna save Royal Blue 8 damage to the face from this Mountain Giant.
Well, it could be just a Freezing Trap bluff. Like, from Sector's 1 perspective, they didn't get to try most trap. They know it's not freezing. Like the first one, they know it's not freezing.
They swang face on the previous turn with the Kobold Librarian, so they are aware that it is not either explosive or wandering, the first one. So yes. They know it's not. They know one of them is not freezing, explosive, or wandering. They know it's either Snake Trap or Venom Strike Trap,
Right.
the minion attack secrets. So they do know that if they attack into this hyena with, say, this Ziliax, there'll be a poisonous snake coming out. So they do have things to think about here.
All right, they're just going for it with the giant. They're like, okay, we got to see what happens.
Ooh,
it's-
Flappy Bird comes out.
Okay, it's kind of like feel like sacrificing your giant,
And
but
synergy. It's summoned
yeah,
a
this is really good. I mean, it doesn't change much for Ziliax. He still kills that hyena anyway, but
No, but
like this giant's not going to do much work, unfortunately.
no, it is not. But if they did not have the Ziliax there, that would have actually been quite bad news for Sector 1, as they would have had they wouldn't have been expecting a beast to come out of Wandering Monster. Naturally, that's statistically very unlikely. So the hyena the hyena having increased health there would have potentially been a bit of an issue for them.
Because if it wasn't a beast, actually Double Defile would have cleared the hyena and the cobra and left the giant alone.
Yeah, so the Vicious Fledgling did kind of mess up a potential plan if Ziliax wasn't there. That said,
That
it was,
minion
and
is always annoying. It's like,
oh yeah,
no way you look at it, like Fledgling always finds a way to be annoying for. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, but speaking of big hyenas, we're going to see one here. We're going to see 1 damage pushed to the face, and crucially, we're going to see a hyena which goes out of range of Hellfire and an upgraded Spellstone. Because they have seen one Librarian, they know that there's a possibility of a 5 damage Spellstone, but there is not one of a 7 damage Spellstone.
I really like that choice of not pushing the Dire Mold to the face. It's like 29 and 30 health at this moment of the game doesn't change anything. But Hyena being 10-6 instead of 8-5 can change a whole lot of things. So just realizing we don't need that 1 damage. Let's build what wins us the game. It just shows great control of this matchup.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. But Sector 1 do have a decent answer in the double Doomsayer, or at least they think it's a decent answer. There is the possibility that it gets double kill commanded and puts them right back in the same position.
Well, no, the Doomsayers are not dying to the kill command. There would be 0-2s afterwards.
Well, no, because the Hyena can kill 1 and 2 kill commands can kill the other.
Yeah, but I mean, you're pretty happy if you don't take the Hyena to the face at the end of the turn.
That is very true.
It's like, it doesn't feel good, but at the same time, you just saw your opponent float 20 mana somewhere else than your face. So I wouldn't say it's totally a lost.
Yep, could be better. So now the real question for Royal Blue is, how lucky do they feel? A Huffer kill command would be a pretty good middle ground for them. However, any other option for an animal companion would be pretty bad.
There's a 66% to just throw out a companion that does absolutely nothing. That also kills your Hyena because you lost the chance of kill command.
Yes, so it's a big gamble, but using these 2 kill commands could also be pretty problematic in the long run because they will want that much damage at some point, and they are going into the Lackey Pact turn, which could just spell the end of any chance of going face in the future anyway.
Like with our caster's vision, I would have, I think, invested 2 kill commands to keep my Hyena. They're gonna go with the other solution, which is, okay, we get 10 damage in hand, a hero power, they're at 16, let's race.
And that's a good draw for Sector 1. They get the Skull of the Mire with double Void Lord in hand, and they need to push some damage very quickly.
If it's Huffer, the game can hand. If it's Huffer, they can like 2-turn lethal because they push 6 this turn, and Dire Mold, double kill command, coin hero power pushes 12 next turn. So for now, Sector 1 only has 3 points of healing available, which is enough to remove to get 1 more turn on this clock. But if this is Huffer, and this is Huffer,
It
we're
is.
gonna see. We could see a very very fast end of game. Because do you really expect from Sector 1 to think that you have to use that Spellstone when a 3/9 taunt is gonna hit the board?
I mean, I'd be all for killing Huffer, just as a matter of principle. Huffer's a scary card.
Yeah,
Could
but
even
now you
Tal'Daram-
have
could-
like Umbra Tal'Daram is available, Cube Tal'Daram is available. Like you can be greedy. Like there's ways to be greedy and lose this game.
Yep, and it's just going to be a matter of, do they recognize the way they lose now is by not playing that double kill command? Because these are some good players.
And
Double
another
kill
thing
command
is,
should be
even
very
if
much
they-
on their mind.
even if they do it, okay, they saved one turn, but how do they save themselves from the next turn right now? Because
Well, if they-
Royal Blue has 12 available every turn from now on, and they're at 13 with 0 healing in hand anymore.
Yeah, they need that one of those dark pets or that second spellstone very soon, or that Huffer might just have decided to think this game. But they do have the option of playing Umbra now, then on the following turn.
Ooh, they have Scarabs. Umbra, like they have a really good
Plated
9
people.
drop. Like with Umbra and Tal'Daram, you can play a Scarab, get the death, copy it, get another death rattle, and this is a lot of armor.
Yeah, if they went Plated Beetle and then cube the Plated Beetle with Umbra on board, that would be 9 armor they would gain.
Yeah, so actually, I think Plated Beetle is the best top deck in the game. Well, in the deck, at least.
Although
Maybe in the game.
It is the Plated Beetle best 2-drop in the game. And looks like they're gonna absolutely respect the Spirit Singer Umbra. They do not want that to survive. Probably rightly so.
Yeah, there's always the question I think you ask yourself, which is, do we cash in 12 and just remove his hero power from now on? Because if imagine your opponent knows you have double kill command, because like, I mean, four cards haven't moved. One is the coin, but 3 cards haven't moved for a very long time now. So if they play around 12, maybe you want to remove the opportunity from them to actually tap and then get the Scarab or get the Spellstone. That would heal them for way more than the hero power that they just used. That is not a Scarab or Spellstone.
It is not. But it could draw them something useful.
The thing now is if they draw the Scarab, that is not enough because they go down to, and wow.
And that's just
I
gonna
guess
be it. Huffer's just
never-
won the game.
Yeah, and I'm kind of sad because we're never gonna get our answer of how good is Secret Hunter against Midrange Hunter now.
No, because it turns out that it can just win against Q-Block as well.
Well, I mean, Hunter can win against Warlock when he has double kill command. I think we knew that before the start of the game.
Yep. If you get Huffer, and if you have double kill command, you're gonna do like pressing steady shot every single turn.
Can we
Just
Can we just shout out the Aina that kind of pushed 10 at some point in the game? Also, kind of feel like she did a report of the job. 2 mana, 10 damage is a better ratio than Force of Nature Savage Orchid.
for a quarter of the mana cost.
Yes.
It seems pretty good to me. And yeah, the decision to hold on to those kill commands, not kind of save the 10 damage and just cash it in while we had the opportunity, then Animal Companion into Huffer, they played to their chances of winning that game. They knew kill command.
Yeah, this is like a lot of people can say, yeah, they got lucky, but they played to get that luck to actually matter. Like they were like, we need this to happen, but you have to force luck.
And like you said, you would have gone for the preserve the hyena play, so you would probably have lost that game.
Well, the thing is, at the time we made the decision, we didn't saw the weapon that was top deck the next turn. That changed a lot of things, and that indeed punished the more conservative approach I would have took.
Yep, Skull punishes a lot of things. So playing like your opponent is going to draw Skull at any moment, again, when you're in an unfavored matchup, probably a good way of doing things. So now, once again, we see the mid-range hunter. It's match point, it's series point for Royal Blue, with their odd elemental rogue up against Sector 1's mid-range hunter. And if there's a hand to win an unfavored matchup, then I think this is it.
I feel like before the Baku draw, both players had really, really good hands for the matchup. Because Dire Maul turn 1, like, Dire Maul turn 1 is insane. Tower Creeper is insane against Hunter. SI7, if you pick up another turn 1 to proc it, is really good. And on the Hunter side, just have all the small minions you want. They're just missing Spring Paw, but they can pretty much do anything they want with the Dire Maul into Razor Maw, into Companion Curve. The Hyena to be able, like, to be buffed if they pick up Unleash or Spring Paw at any point in the game. So we should have a really good match of, like, lots of decisions coming up.
Absolutely. People don't give aggro mirrors the credit they deserve, I think, and this should be a particularly good one. But this Tar Creeper is going to go a massive way in this matchup.
I feel like probably a lot of decks that want to beat Hunter play Tar Creeper. Tar Creeper feels insanely good against mid-range Hunter nowadays.
Yeah, just because the ability to deal with... Well, just you play it into Animal Companion turn. Huffer is just so bad against Tar Creeper in particular. Because it just sits there and it's like, I literally can't attack.
Yeah. It also kills a Hyena that would have got 1 buff. It kills the Hyena in a 4-3-4.
And how about Tar Creeper into 1-drop SI7 agent?
I like it. I mean...
I like it a lot. As the odd rogue, as the mid-range hunter, I hate it.
Yes, and here I really like the choice of taking protecting that Tar Creeper from trade with the 4-3 plus Candle Shot, just
Or
making them find 1 more damage. But
or from Animal Companion Leok, as if there was
in the end, it's gonna be the worst result because they get to suicide 2 beasts instead of 1 for that Hyena. Like, it feels like a punish, but I think everything outside of this, they made the correct decision. Like, it's really hard.
They can still just deal with this Hyena. They do have to take 6, but they deal with their opponent's biggest threat.
You take this 6. Like, you don't even question yourself. Take this 6. Otherwise, they become 50.
And crucially, they've picked up the second Tar Creeper on top of that.
Yes. I feel like outside of Tar Creeper, like Van Cleef and Baku are probably the 2 worst cards in the deck for Odd Rogue, because Baku is just bad. And Van Cleef has nothing to be, like, used for his combo when you have SI7 or, like, cards that just feel more important in the matchup. But if Zeliax is picked, if, like, Glacial Shard is really good too, I feel. They're playing Snapjaw, that could be a good one. Like, they have a lot of draw quality.
Absolutely. There's a lot of good means. They really don't want to be seeing things like Leroy off the top right now, but there's a lot of cards they just be pretty happy with. And they Sector 1 roll Huffer. And it's a pretty awkward decision, I'd say, as to what to do with it as a Valspine. And we can just see Tar Creeper dagger up and finally start pushing some damage now that Royal Blue have complete control of the board.
Alright, just because I like to say dumb stuff, but sometimes it works out. How much do you like Valspine this turn, just so you can Tar Creeper Van Cleef next?
I mean, that's certainly a suggestion. If you come back to me in like a few days, I'll let you know what I think of it. Because
like, sometimes just like Valspine, you want to proc the Valspine, but this might be the only occasion you have to actually use Van Cleef. And you have board control, like, you can do it.
Yeah, but the real downside to that is then you kind of put yourself in a situation where you don't have a dagger active for 3 turns. And the dagger is the reason you are favored in this matchup. And this is just yet another really awkward position for Sector 1. Do they play a Lynx and kill command? That feels pretty bad. Do they Animal Companion into a Tar Creeper, maybe roll Huffer and it just dies? What do you think here? it's probably got to be dealing with the tar creep. But then you just give your opponent a value trade into your 1/1, and that's a 1/1 which can't buff this hyena.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel like
All right.
right now for Hunter, it just comes down to Rexor. Like they're past the point of the game where they think they can kill the rogue by pure tempo, unless the rogue draws the worst card in the possible universe, like for the next 3-4 turns. But I
But
think now
they
you
can't
have to
because
think.
they've already got the worst cards in their hand and
like-
they're still ahead.
Yes, which is why like this possibility is really hard to imagine. So I really think now, if you're the hunt, you're playing like you're gonna top deck Rexor every single turn.
And I think this is a deadly poison. Edwin getting some Edwin value as well as generating a 4-attack dagger just seems all right here.
Yeah, it's a 4/4. You just keep building the board. You have a really good dagger to answer the next minions your opponent plays. And this is a really good card. Thins your deck, so more chances to draw Rexor, and actually gives you stuff to do.
Yep, but not great stuff to do as it turns out. Another Huffer. That I've never seen Huffer trade this much before. And weirdly, because Sector 1 have been playing so defensively, it means that Royal Blue do not have a way of actually being proactive because of this Valspine and this Diamol. They've seen a Master's Call, so we've got to assume that either Scavenging Hyena or Tundra Rhino, the two most threatening cards in the deck, are on their mind, and that's what they're holding this Valspine for. They would have been very sad to see the top of the deck with only 2 cards remaining in hand, so probably not feeling too great about that. And I don't really know what they do from here. It might just have to be a 1/3, go to the face and pass.
To be honest, like they have to do something. Like they have to figure out a plan, and it's really hard because you have to figure it out. They want to draw. Like you have to the strategy based on possibles. It's really hard to build a strategy with just your hand right now.
Very true. And they do play the Valspine just for tempo, which is just does not feel great as the odd rogue. And we're seeing just the odd rogue kind of run dry. This is the reason why Myra's Unstable Element is just completely omnipresent in almost every odd rogue list. And when you don't have that option as a kind of a get out of jail free card, odd rogue does have the possibility of just completely running out of steam if you've drawn Baku, if you've drawn Edwin, if you haven't drawn your kind of mid game, the Ziliax, the Blaze Caller.
Yeah, like the synergies in Odd Rogue have always been a bit weird because it doesn't run draw outside of Myra's. Well, they have the Fine of Knives in this one, but it's kind of tough to hold on resources with Odd Rogue and kind of force your curve to activate synergies when what the deck just wants is to jam really, really good minions on curve and protect them with their dagger.
Yeah, and they just, because the Hunter's just kind of going toe-to-toe with the minions while also running card draw in the form of the Double Master's Call. Like, Fan of Knives isn't really card draw in so much as it's a cantrip. It draws one card while also being a card. It's not really card draw in of itself. But Royal Blue are doing their best to just maintain board here. Just about. And Sector 1 are going to probably have to use the Tundra Rhino this turn. But if they can get a good adapt, it's going to be very difficult.
Divine Shield is good. Poison was also good to contest the 3-4, but with the Timberwolf, they can just kill it with the 3-2. So they got the board back. And this is actually a fairly good situation because Royal Blue doesn't have that much health. I mean, 14 health is totally acceptable for Hunter, even with one kill command already gone, I think, in this game.
Yep. Because they need to continue using that dagger to maintain board.
So this actually opens for Sector 1 a plan where even without drawing Rexar, you can imagine just killing your opponent with just the Reno surviving, and he's gonna survive.
And now, how good would a Valspine Slayer be around now? Whew. This is scary. This is very, very scary. And what we're seeing is, kind of the dangers of targeting in Conquest format. Because, say, this does go to a Game 5. Royal Blue versus Sector 1's final decks are this Odd Rogue once again against the Q block for Sector 1. So they're still probably feeling alright about it, but this is very, very much just lethal.
And this is kind of what we were talking about, which is the possibility sometimes that this deck has just too many synergies in it, and it just doesn't work, unfortunately.
Yep, it just ran out of steam. Drawing Baku just hurts a deck's chances of winning so much in Odd Rogue, especially without the Myra's Unstable Element as the kind of get out of jail free card. And we're very quickly going to go back into our final game, which, like we said, it's still Odd Rogue versus Q Block, which is traditionally a good matchup, but there are some crucial pieces missing for the Odd Rogue, which are, I think, some of the most powerful cards in the matchup. Like, the really big thing missing in the kind of decks where Odd Rogue really wants to be the aggressor is Vicious Fledgling. That's not present in the list, and that has so much propensity to just kind of win the game by itself. Like, Fan of Knives, Glacial Shard, while they may be good against other kind of more aggressive strategies against the Q block, it's literally going to do nothing. So this more offensive list, this more defensive list of Odd Rogue, which has been designed with the kind of target mid-range hunter strategy in mind, might be missing enough tools that the Q block is just able to get there, but we shall see, because this Q block has a pretty good defensive hand to be getting on with.
This Q block has a good defensive hand, but at the same time, I think Inch Clan Tug is about the most annoying minion ever for Cube. Because the turn it comes in, it curves with your Hellfire, and he has 4 health. Then, if your weapon is not upgraded at 5, it's gonna go to 6. By the turn, you can go Cobalt plus Spellstone at 5. So it's really hard to deal with this minion, simply, if you don't have the immediate answer on each turn, because then it just has 1 more health than what your normal answer is at that mana.
Yeah, it's just incredibly infuriating. But the Plated Beetle does at least kind of... It's Plated Beetle, or just 2/3s in general, are kind of the antithesis of Odd Rogue. They hate 2/3s because they are really, really difficult to deal with as Odd Rogue. I remember just in the even Paladin versus Odd Rogue matchup, the way you win that is just by playing as many minions which are 2/3 as possible. So this Plated Beetle is just going to survive, and a second Plated Beetle is going to be even more annoying.
Yeah, and at some point, I feel like it was in the Boomsday meta, a lot of players felt like, even luckily, everybody was playing 2 Oozes at some point because Odd Rogue was very, very common. And a lot of players started saying that you should play 2 Beetles because Beetle is actually better than Ooze against Odd Rogue, because Ooze dies to the dagger while Beetle doesn't. And
ooh. Doomsayer Plated Beetle into the Skull and Mari. Sorry to cut you off there, but
you're totally right. This is a game-winning turn.
This is just absolutely fantastic. Obviously, the play that Royal Blue are going to be drawn to is to dagger. The dagger into the Doomsayer plus the 5/5 Henchclan Thug deals with the Doomsayer perfectly.
could coin
but you've
Valspine.
just Yep, you could also coin Valspine, but you don't want to Valspine a good number of things, and then you don't dagger, and then the Beetle can hit into your Henchclan Thug, and the suite of Warlock removal will just kind of do its thing.
Well, if you dagger with the poison, you can also. But the coin Toro Creeper though protects. Oh, no, they're not gonna poison. Okay, they're gonna protect with the Toro Creeper. Yes, this is way better. I thought you suggested dagger poison. That's why I was confused. But the Toro Creeper protecting the Thug is a really, really good thing. The main problem now for Royal Blue is weapon equipped and 27 health.
Absolutely. Skull, pretty scary. And they're just going to be hoping, praying, just to any kind of deity they can think of, that there's no Voidlord in hand. Because Voidlord against Odd Rogue, which does not run Ironbeak Owl, just shuts out entirely. And when they're still on 27 health, there's no chance of the Blaze Callers going over the top. They need to do much more damage this game.
Yeah, you need to be incredibly ahead on board to be able to trade a Voidlord cleanly as an Odd Rogue. Here we see they're not in the hand, but there's a Doomguard, so the Toro Creeper is not gonna stay for a long time. But the good thing is this Tug should be able to do a lot of work, at least for the next 2 turns. But just as you said, at the very moment there is a Voidlord in this hand, everything can change.
At that point, it is just traditionally close to over, but this 6/6 Henchclan Thug, like you say, it keeps growing. And it is protected now behind 2 taunts. But Ziliax at the other end is going to do a little bit at just kind of dealing with this board. And now there is a Doomguard which must be dealt with, but it is going to be dealt with somewhat easily. Right, so if the Henchclan Thug trades into Ziliax and there is a dagger, deadly poison to kill the Doomguard, then it will be at 5 health. So it is still susceptible to a upgraded Spellstone. But I think they have the read at this point that there is no upgraded Spellstone in hand. So long as they're safe from a 3 damage Spellstone or Hellfire, I think they'll still be feeling pretty happy with themselves. And that way they can still play another Tar Creeper just to keep protecting this from a second Doomguard. Looks like that's the line that Royal Blue is going for. They kind of, the way Royal Blue is playing this, and I like it a lot, is they kind of are acknowledging that the way they win this is this Henchclan Thug sticking just as long as possible.
Yes, and at the same time, they're just playing like there's no other demons in Sector's one hand, and this is true. Like it's really hard to convince yourself that if there are other demons, you're probably gonna lose. So you have to play like they're not, and they're gonna get immensely rewarded for that because right now Sector's one best play is an empty cube.
And when you see an empty cube come after a tap off the top, you are just so happy with yourself. And what they need to be careful of now is Godfrey.
Yes, they need to find a way to deal with the cube cleanly enough that they don't give up Godfrey to their opponent. And the only way I see them doing this is Fan of Knives, Weapon, and
agent.
Tar Creeper. No, because if you SI...
If they attack with the Tar Creeper, they will have a 1 health minion.
Okay.
So Fan of Knives SA7 agent would have a 3, a 5, and a 5, so it would have to be second Librarian Godfrey for a clear. And the 2 5s are obviously completely safe from any sort of Defile Hellfire stuff.
Yes.
So we'll see if they are really thinking about the Godfrey here. Because if they make the trick with the Weapon and the Tar Creeper here, they will be opening themselves. Actually, no, then the Henchclan Thug will still survive at that point. But this is really heads-up play.
what I was saying with the Tower Creeper is that if you trade Tower Creeper, play the SI, and you just have 5 and 1.
Oh, so you're saying to use the SI to kill the Tar Creeper?
No, you just don't play. You just hold on your SI and just keep this.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that is another option, but
But it's not as good as yours. I totally agree. This one just puts a super big amount of board, and next turn the Fungomancer will allow to put this this Ench clan away from anything that is not a silence, and they don't run silence.
they do not. And this is just lethal as it stands. Is there anything that they can tap into which will save them? Because if they get a lackey, they do not have the mana to Dark Pact, pull a Void Lord. If they...
I'm trying to see if there's anything to do with this double defile, but you do not reach 5. Like even if you get Librarian double SI.
Oh wait, if they tap Librarian... Wow. Oh wait, no. This is the saddest play I've ever seen.
Yes, but next turn you can defile Godfrey. This board, you probably won't be able to defile the Fungoman.
Is this lethal?
So you have 8 plus 5 plus 3. That's 16.
8, 13, 16 then with the
So you reverse Fungal. This is exactly lethal. And
the Royal Blue are gonna win the series. Interestingly, they lost to their targeted matchup. The mid-range hunter snuck a win, but because they had the Odd-Rogue, the elemental Odd-Rogue, which had lost both of its games previously, was just about able to get there because it.
Can we say that? Yeah, just needed to draw that Thug.
Henchclan Thug on 3 hard carried because that Thug on 3 was still alive on turn. Was that 9?
That was 8.
That was turn 8. That Thug did so much damage. So we are gonna pass you back over to our analysts, who are gonna go a bit more in depth with that. So, who is hosting? I cannot remember. Looks like our host for the time being, Delta, is AWOL. So I'm just gonna pass you directly back over to our analysts, Livion and Wheater. Why don't you just...
No, we have Cinder that took Delta's place.
I
as
am
the host.
a complete
So we have the
idiot.
wonderful Cinder.
Well, thanks so much, Robobson, my close and dear friend over there on the other side of the pond. But that was an amazing series. Very, very close fought. Another game 5 for House Rivalries. Such a tough, close competition. This is going to end up sending Royal Blue forward to be facing Helsinki Reds in the semifinals. But to break down some of the intricacies of this matchup, we're back with Wita and Livion. So, guys, what were some of the key points of this match that turned it in favor of Royal Blue?
I mean, I want to start about saying that it wasn't maybe saying it in the favor of Royal Blue, but I feel like especially the Cube Warlock just had some few unfortunate things go against it. For the Cube Warlock that 6-1 brought, I feel like it was actually overall, I don't think it was that bad. I think it was a pretty good call. It's just so happened that the mid-range hunter somehow snuck that win, and that was just what more or less took the series and flipped it into Royal Blue's favor. I feel like overall, I feel like they played really well. Obviously, it's a very strong lineup in terms of it's a DreamHack champion. It's Camille who has done fairly well topping a few things. You have Chapadins as well, also done fairly okay for himself on ladder as a very strong team overall. So not surprised he didn't do well. But I guess by like first 6-1 bringing in Chinois this week as well, we expected. We got a close series, which was what we expected. And I want to point out that game 1 this series could have been a little bit different. It could have been over in a heartbeat. I feel like there was one turn that I found to be really interesting was that in game 1, the turn right before the game ended because Zarek's clothing gallery things happened. You had there the chance to go for something like there was a lot of situations where the top deck the Leroy so they had to figure out what was the best way to push through the Leroy, and then because they had to leave up that second copy of Rail Elements on the board, they just ended up losing the game on that spot instead. I don't know if you have anything else you want to point out, Logan.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about the two faces of the Odd Rogue. where of course it still has the core Odro cards like Henchclan Thug that carry the game, like SI7 Agent and Firefly, but it also has Blaze Caller and Glacial Shard, and I think we really saw against the Hunter what makes it weak is the bad draws kinda, but also cards like Fan of Knives, which is kind of awkward in the deck, and Glacial Shard. But I guess they made it like this to counter the mid-range Hunter, which in the end didn't even work out. On the other hand, Henchclan Thug can still carry.
I mean, I'm still wondering, right? Because overall, Oddrogue is just naturally, I feel like they're still in a pretty good spot in that matchup, even without Fan. I'm not even sure if Fan really helps the matchup out. Like, the only matchup that could spot around would be Odd Paladin, and I don't think there's a single Odd Paladin in the entire tournament today, so maybe that's just an unfortunate read on their part. I don't know, I feel like Fan Knives is just not that strong of a card because when you play Oddrogue, you want all of your cards to be highly impactful because you naturally like the card draw. And yeah, sure, Fan Knives draws your card, but is it really what you need? But I guess because the way that the deck is built is so reliant on a specific few, like the elemental studio and stuff like that. So having the Fan Knives there is just good enough, I guess.
It is a card draw, and that's not for nothing. But this is one of the dangers of teching your decks for specific matchups because it can make you weaker to everything else in the field. So we're going to have to see if this specific Odd Rogue build is going to hold up for Royal Blue in the next round. They're going to be moving on to the Helsinki Reds, but before we get to that matchup, after the break, we'll be seeing Intrepid Fox versus Epic Esports for the very first semifinal of the House Rivalries Season 1 EU Division. So if you're watching, please stick with us. We'll be right back after a short break to bring you that hot matchup.